and one time a month. Others do it every Sunday, so there's multiple traditions that can be worked into what the needs are. So it would be timing that you would want. We have an AA group that is meeting outside on Monday nights. And that started during COVID. If, as it starts getting darker and cooler, it'll depend on COVID life, but if they're prepared to come inside and wear masks, that's a possibility. Trying to follow the state that can be the virus, the needs, the ministry, and the people's comfort with their own personal health. David, any questions that you have about the facility or that your team would want to know, or it's just kind of a look you see?
Yeah, we're just looking, and I've been here a few times.
Yeah,
so,
you have.
Yeah. And we thank Denise for all the way from Carpinteria.
Yeah. Oh, I'm happy to do it, and I really would be pleased to be able to share space with you. For those of you that weren't here at the beginning, our neighbor is Congregation B'nai B'rith. So we thoroughly enjoy them and try to do something. And up here on the hill, we've got the Greek Orthodox Church, which is just around the curve from us. And then down the street that way, we also have a community church. And then you get out on Cathedral Canyons, and there's a church, and then there's a church, and then there's a church. So we got a lot of spirit up here on this hill.
Where's the soundboard?
Upstairs. You want to go look at it, Roy?
Can I?
Yeah, let me just get the key.
You said you're in charge of 25 congregations. What's your role here? Or like,
I am a pastor here,
okay.
so this is my home congregation. But I'm also a World Church officer for our faith tradition. So I've got from Santa Barbara to Chula Vista, 2 in St. George, Utah, 1 in Las Vegas, and 2 in Baja.
Okay.
So
Southwest region.
we call ourselves Pacific Southwest International. Yeah. Let me get a key for Roy to go up there and take a look.
So we probably have some things to cover. Alex is leading us through the agenda for today, which you should receive. Anybody not get the agenda by email? Okay, that's because you weren't here at the last leaders. So I came from that. Okay. So
Are we going to chill in here, or are we in this house?
Well, I was thinking in here.
I think it's fine to do it here. It's not really.
No, it's not comfortable, I think it.
So I'm thinking that if you're far away from people, I don't know. Good idea.
Hey, it's so weird how far behind that is.
You could dance with yourself like. Just looking at the soundboard. Let's see. Give away the start.
Hey, David, you want to say hello at the microphone there and just see?
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, everybody, thank you for being here today and helping us prepare ourselves to move forward.
It's a very kind of different space to have a discussion when we're all wearing masks and sitting in pews facing this way.
Well, we get way close to the
Take a machine.
You can actually see like all of us on the screen.
Oh, he's.
If we all kind of like are sitting in front of our face, you could probably actually see almost everyone. Yeah.
True.
Anybody hear any more from Jay with the mic ring?
She was having a rough week, I saw, but I didn't hear anything more talking about it.
She was having what?
She was having a rough week. But I only saw that on social media.
Your wrist is better?
Hi everybody, my name is Matt. I got hit by a car last Friday, so that's all. Yeah, so yeah, that's what you're seeing. I'm here, going through emergency room, energy here quite a bit. So yeah, only a fractured wrist so far. Yeah.
Can you hear Kenichi?
Hi, Kenichi.
Yes, I can hear. I can hear.
We cannot.
Thank you.
You're muted, Kenichi. You just unmuted, but I think it's gonna get.
With the delay?
I can hear everyone.
You can hear us great.
Thank
you. All right, should we start then?
Yeah, everybody, let's hear what Alex is gonna do here.
Okay, so the agenda is we'll do the opening prayer. I think let's skip the icebreaker if that's all right with everyone. Because we're kind of 30 behind. And then the different items that we're going to go through, we're going to talk about, like, we just update the congregation on, you know, just the financial view, right? Roy and I have action item on that. And then we'll do check-ins on the Thursday night team, and then check-in on the Sunday service team, and check in on the ticket planning, and then have a discussion about any other things that we need to talk about, and then do the closing prayer. You want to do the opening prayer? Does anyone feel compelled to do the opening prayer?
No. You are holy, and you are our life, and you regenerate us. We ask that you make us hope. Make us hope for people everywhere. Make us hope for Afghanis. Make us hope for Haitians. Make us hope for people everywhere. We know that you are the hope, but we are what you made us to be. That's your design. You said that as long as you were in the world, you were the light, and now we are the light. And we're meeting today to see what we can do to shine that light. And so I ask for your presence to be rich among us. May we be very sensitive to the flow of your spirit, and that you would give grace to Alex to help us figure things out. Amen.
So then, yeah, so from the financial stuff, we've been working to the board plus the financial. Thanks Sally for putting those together and came on the day before meeting on the board with the board on this topic. I think if we can publish financials, then I think in general the question is like, what do people want to see, right? But from a high level summary, the way that we look at it, we're looking at two things. Number one is, what does it look like overall? And then what does it enable us to do? And then what are the things that we need to examine further, right? And so I think looking at it from the perspective of last year and further back, and then moving forward, what does it look like? So it looked like last year and before that the financial were pretty tough, right? Where it was basically hand to mouth, right? And to the point where you know, when it wasn't enough, then David's salary wasn't fully paid for that, right? And that's just the nature of things, right? It looks like it's been pretty healthy this year. Healthy, the thing is, it's not like healthy from a, there's not much, it looks good, but it's not like it can change at any moment. Like, it's more like that, because it's not hand to mouth necessarily, but it's not like there's a huge margin, right? And so when we looked at it, we were trying to examine that, and we're also trying to examine from a total compensation perspective, there's, you know, what David gets paid, but there's also things like retirement and things like that. What's he set up for his life, right? And that's important. So so those two parts, and then we're also looking at you know, when we discuss meeting in person, how does something like that affect the financial operations of it, and can we afford it, right? And so it looks like meeting in person was only incrementally more costly than what we're spending today, right? And so if you know, you look at the numbers that we had for the last 2 months, 3 months, we should be able to meet in person, right? Now the question is if we tie in the things like retirement and yada yada yada, are we set up? We still need to figure that out. But from a high level, it looks like we're okay, right? And again, we're going to look again over this next month as we explore. I think that in terms of getting consistent giving, and again, we don't want people to give what they can't give. That's not the goal. It's just, you know, Pastor David and pastors in general don't self-advocate, right? And so how do we make sure that we're advocating for David to make sure that he's taken care of, and also so that there's enough buffer in the operations of the church so that we can do things like meet in person, or so that every decision isn't a tough, like, oh shoot, that's $50. Can we or can we not, right? And the more we can release that burden from David, then the more he can focus on leading us as a spiritual group, right? So that's how we're looking at it. From a retirement perspective, Roy found a group that provides retirement plans for pastors even outside their congregation. It's called MMBI? MMBB. And so we took a call with them on Friday, and it was a really positive conversation. I really enjoyed that. Like, they're very mission driven. The way that they're set up, there's no conflict of interest, right? These things you never know. Like, where does the money flow? What pays for the people who are working on it versus, you know, the money that comes into the retirement, where does that go? The flow of that is important to make sure that it doesn't go from one pocket to the next and yada yada. It felt very clean, and it felt like it was a great mission. And it seems like they know what they're doing. It's competency, right? So we're still exploring that, and we'll give the board a recommendation in the next couple of weeks or so. But I thought it was a really positive call. And you know, the representative Augie Day or Augie Bao he's funny because he reiterated that pastors don't ever self-advocate.
I have a question. Now, is New Covenant run as a nonprofit?
Yes,
So is it a 403B?
it's a 403B.
Okay.
Yep, it's a 403B, exactly. Yeah, so I think the big takeaways from this topic are, for me, are, hey, things look okay. We should be looking at things like meeting in person, and we should be looking at the retirement stuff, and we'll give a recommendation. But at some point, there should be a little bit more vocal of a push of how do we make sure that we have enough funds for the congregation? I mean, I think when it comes time to do that, the question is how do we do it in a way that's not like people don't feel uncomfortable and pressured about it? And it's again, it's more of a reminder than a harassment, right? And we're all here to take care of each other. Anyone want to add anything to that from the topic? Okay. Agree, disagree? Any questions from anyone on it?
Is the heading of that topic just retirement in person, or what was the?
The heading of that topic is update on financial view. And it's just that the retirement was a piece that we specifically wanted to make sure that we understood. I think the pieces were how is the overall giving versus spending? Is compensation fair, right? How's retirement, and then what else can we do? And then what else can we do is things like meeting in person. I think our view is if we do things like picnics and things like that, you know, potlucks and something like that is one way to cover it. There's other expenses what we can figure out. Right? Like the renting the next space, the space for the picnic. Other questions on this topic? Everyone seems very excited. I picked the most spiritual topic first, so you're welcome.
Kenichi, do you have any input?
No, just listening and tracking and yeah, but no input at this point.
Historically, has there been any money put towards retirement fund? Is there any existing at all?
A little bit.
Or are we starting fresh at 62? 66, you know, like, so that's, yeah, so what's the state of that?
So there's some from the other congregation, right, that's in there.
Oh, that's right, they were, yeah.
There's some from the other congregation. And what's nice about, what I liked about, you don't mind if I get too specific, right? Like, what I like about what this MMBB has is they actually have a financial planner that will sit down with David and Diane to figure out like what's a good way to look at it, right? And I think there are a lot of ways to skin the cat, right? And so some of it is like, what is contribution moving forward? What is based on the assets that are already existent in there, like there can be a redistribution of how you look at it to actually make it work for you, right? So they need a holistic view, but I love that they have competent people that can do that. And there's no fee for that, which is awesome. So they're basically ran by, there's an endowment that was started by Rockefeller that pays for the staff. So that's completely separate. And the endowment pays for itself because it's invested, and it just pays for the staff that allows them to have support for all of the people that they serve. It's super clean and they're competent.
Pastors have no fee.
Yeah, no fees. And then, you know, Roy has been using this since '78.
He's not going to retire since 78.
No. Contributing, and churches have been contributing since 1978, when we first started pastoring.
Yeah, one of the pieces that Alex mentioned that I found particularly helpful, and it's actually better now than it was when I did it, is that whole certified financial planner piece. And that's automatically included for all members, and it's free. So David and Diane would not have to pay for that. That just comes as one of those benefits. It's financed by the income from that endowment that Rockefeller started. Essentially,
And they cover everything, I mean, it's a very extensive, they'll have fun, that you'll have to answer all these questions, so. You don't want anything unturned.
That's good.
I do have one question, if I can ask. I know that years ago, when I was the administrator for New Covenant, we were putting money aside for Pastor and Diane's retirement. Was that stopped at certain period, and then the other church took over for a while, and then are we now resuming, or has that also continued? All this time, and then so are we really picking this up as a New Covenant ownership, if you will?
So I don't have full view of, well, I haven't dug into the stuff in the past too deeply yet. But I think when the finances got bad or worse, I think there was less contribution at that point for the retirement, right? And I don't know the status of where the assets are for the contribution in the past, but I think the intention is to look at all that stuff and then make sure that there's contribution, or make a recommendation for contribution in the future.
Okay. I'm on board. I think this is important for both of them, and I think it's good that we are discussing this. Yeah.
And possibly in the planning of this, I guess recommendation that, or that would be considered for the recommendation is, even if retirement does happen 5, 10 years, whatever, 15, like that there's a period of time continued after retirement in which we continue to pay into the fund for the years like that of service or whatever, that, so just to maintain the stability and the, contributing to the fund, so it's not just retirement and done, and so that's just, it's a continued part of our financial outlook. So just thinking beyond this, like, okay, retirement is 5 years, that we continue to pay on for the next 5, 10 years after that, or whatever we decided. I don't know, King off the name, Sally. If that's what you want.
We looked at that now.
Is that?
So we can vote you now. So I think.
And the church says?
So I think a good way to capture that is just to state, what does it look like when David retires? Right? I think that's more of a kind of a general category that we should just make sure that we're thorough on that, to make sure that it's sufficient, essentially, right?
Are you talking about after David retires, how that looks with regards to David's retirement, or his retirement for his work?
Because Matt was suggesting that we keep contributing after David retires. I think just in general, we should understand what our plans is on. There's two sides of it, right? Number one, we have to make sure that the giving that keeps the congregation alive, right? But we also want to make sure that we're being properly compassionate to David, to make sure that he has a good retirement. Right? So whatever that balanced view is, we will make sure that that's a thinking point and analysis point as we examine it. basically that's my one way of getting it down to we have a conversation. Okay.
I printed out a copy of, it's a briefing of what's happening for August. The transaction, and here for that, is not complete, it gives you an idea of how the, look at planning how the money plays.
Any other comments, questions on the topic?
When is the last time or what topic was in the church has kind of made a request to the congregation about considering cutting donations or kind of saying that being asked people who really don't kind of donate, how long does that happen?
So I think that's what I want to do. So
Okay.
you have about the same program.
Gotcha.
I'll take a stab at it. If we just do the general weekly thing that you hear in the announcements, that's what has been done. Every once in a while, kind of around the end of the year, we'll make like an extra thing like, hey, it's the end of the year, we're going to give you one time, thing like that, but that's not what's
Gotcha.
I think for me, if this is a part of the conversation, like having a fund raising team, I guess, or people that think that way, thinking about other ways that we can fundraise other than just through our Sunday giving time. I think that would be important, whether it's looking at grants, the church-based grants, or fundraising opportunities, or who to go to in the community, putting on a gala, I don't know, putting on just whatever, end of the year kind of thing, like just a church party or something, I don't know, just whatever it may be. So just thinking about different ways that we can fundraise. That's a barbecue thing. Yeah. So.
Okay, I made some food.
I think to add, I know this is a heavy conversation, but I think a part of, for me, the values of church is not just coming to hear a sermon, which I know that's it's a big part of church, but understanding that the values of the church is to be for the people. And so I think having a people-based or a people fund, like a health fund, is helpful to be a part of the budget as well too. Thinking about hey, if somebody needs help, they can come to us and we can support them this way. And so I know that adds another complexity to the budget, but having that line item there of hey, if somebody came to us, we wouldn't be able to help them, because we're kind of a sermon-based church right now, but how do we, I know our values aren't we are really for the people, so how do we kind of have a budget match that as well too, so.
I agree with you that, so I took events for a fundraising team, and then also I took events for the health funding. Yeah, it's interesting, right? I think when we think about community and tithe in general, right? Me personally, some of how I think about it is some of it goes to the church and some of it goes to my pet projects. Oh hey, I really believe in this organization, and I spend time and money on those things, and then but it's kind of decentralized from the church. But I do get curious about when things happen, when COVID hit, what are the things that we're doing that we can serve, right? But I feel like that ends up being something that is we form a group that just how we have the Thursday night group, we have the Sunday group, we have the integration group, right? Or community connectivity, whatever, right? If there's one about people who are passionate about actually understanding how community service group, whatever, and some of that can be establishing funds to direct help out for people who need it, and some of it to be programs too, right? I think it's really tied to what are people compelled to lead and do.
Yeah, you know, just for my own and Diane as well, even though we might not be giving, have a fund collectively, it's kind of what you were saying too. Every month I'm personally, we are personally giving to something, and so I see this as an inspiration option for people and motivation option. You know, for instance, you know, talking to Wendy today, she really needed that. She does a lot in our community. She's not part of our congregation, but she really needed the interaction with us. And so I feel like that's what we do for one another as a congregation. We rely on one another as a place of fueling and being strengthened with one another, because we have a lot of people who are very active in a lot of ways.
Any other thoughts on this topic?
I should just add as a footnote that in 2020, because of a local family foundation, our church gave away $20,000 to the various grassroots or people who are struggling with being impacted by COVID, that kind of thing. And so it's been kind of under the radar, but because of that contribution we made, it passed away.
Should we be sharing those things a little bit with the congregation, just so that they know that there's activity, right? And it's not, it's just awareness, right?
Yeah. Well, as you say, you know, I guess I'm the person who knows that most, even though the board and Sally and Kaylon definitely know. But as you mentioned before, I don't really do a lot of talk about money, so that's probably why that didn't happen. Maybe I was being negligent, I don't know.
I mean, I think the other side of it is like, if people are aware of those things, then they kind of know, right? When you look at these different organizations, people say, let's say there's a certain problem, people say, well, do I understand the problem? Do I have time to give? Do I have money to give, right? And if they don't even know that, sometimes they have money or time to give, but they don't understand what's going on, right? So unless it's talked about, they don't know who to connect with. Oh, I didn't really do that. I didn't know so doing that. That's great. I'm glad I know that now, because then I'll reach out and I can, you know, it's a low barrier of entry to help out.
Giving inspires giving, knowing that's shared, even though it seems like somehow, I don't know, like kind of, like in at least Christian communities, there's just this like, oh, don't tell people that you're giving, but like I've also listened to plenty of people on, what's it called? Effective altruism, which is like how to actually be effective at doing good in the world, and they talk so much about being vocal about what you're giving to, not because you think you're, you know, awesome, but because people are actually inspired by that. And see, oh, people who I respect and care about are getting, I can do that too. You know, so when it's just like quietly being to like, you know, ask about, like, or even like on Sundays, if there was some sense of like how much would like an average member offer, you know, not like just to give some sense to people, like, oh yeah, people are actually giving, and, you know, I think that can inspire people to give.
I think there's a subtle psychology behind it.
Yeah.
You know, a subtle psychology in how you do it, and that's just the truth. Because if you come up and say, well, you know, we did this, then it comes off as being like, look at me, look what I did. And that's not what we did, but we trust our pastor, we trust the church to make decisions, because they may be more informed than us on where that money does go. So the 20,000, it's great to know that, but we don't want to use it as a carrot for the congregation, as opposed to, you know what, that's a good deeds don't go on, you know what I mean? I think there's a subtle way to do it.
I totally agree. Right? And like, I think focusing on the problem that we're trying to solve, like, hey, if people are struggling with this, and this, and this is how we're getting engaged. Yeah. Right? Like, it's, again, I think describing with all these organizations that you give money, they're all of a sudden spending time, right? And they're starting with the time, that, by the way, these are the resources that are, you know, private or
And I think going off what Kenny was saying, for me, it's also knowing the orgs, like our congregation needs to know who we're supporting, like, oh, we know that name, like, we know that this money, like, I don't know the organization we went to, but like, it's Cause, or it's the Fund, or it's Families Act, you know, whatever it may be, like, we can start to hear that name and associate, okay, we support that organization, and we start to like, okay, we have our ears up to that, or we send somebody say, oh, I want to go give there too, you know, our church supports that. And I think at the same time, it like allows people to be aware and be like, hey, like, I've been a part of other churches where they're like giving something and it's going towards this kind of, the values weren't aligned, we'll just say that, like it was more, and so how do we like, just have aware of the organizations that we're supporting, so I think that's just really important for us as a congregation and members.
You know, so like, we don't have the new government Facebook page, but how do we connect with other people in our congregation outside of it? It's not everybody does Facebook, it's not everybody is associated with it, some people are associated with it, not too much social media. But if there was somebody in the church who kind of just updated the congregation as a whole, so the things that we find, you know, fulfilling in what we've done as a church, as a congregation, but somebody who's announcing, kind of like Kenny was saying, they're pointing out, oh, you see what they did, not so much of what I did, look what you're doing, and including them. I think there's a healthy way to do that. But
It's interesting that Matt brought up some of the groups and listed that we've given to all of us.
yes,
That's good.
I think it's important that the congregation also understand that there's expenses.
Say it again?
That the congregation understands that there's expenses.
Okay.
Because I think there's at least some people that think that church is free. And that has to be free. And, you know, when you see like the numbers that are on the sheet here, I don't understand them, but they're big numbers. And I think a lot of people would be surprised to know that there are such big numbers being offered. Either they're being paid or they're not being met. You know, I think a lot of people would be shocked to realize that things are not free.
I want to dig on that a little bit. Like, I guess my question is how do we show that? Right? Like what have we seen in the past? Or what has it ever, what's been done in either here or other places that was effective for that? Because I agree with you.
you know, oh, sorry.
I've only seen one before, but I really appreciated it, where every quarter, or I don't know what the, time was, but it was either every quarter or half year or something, that they would publish for the entire congregation, for everybody. It was just very open. This is what we take in a month. This is what our budget is. Here's what is included in our budget. And here's where so that is very transparent.
You know, I was thinking along the lines, once a month we could have Bayard's, unchurched notes for each week in a newsletter. You know, even the different notes from each sermon of the week, little highlights of what Thursday group does. And then, you know what, monthly expenses, what we took in, monthly expenses, could all be included in one newsletter, and it could go to every member once a month. So it's not just like, hey, look, it's all we spent, but you include everything we do.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't think about things like electricity or the government. They just think, we have church is free.
And then words for your songs. Put the words for your songs in that same thing. You know, that then we can have them on hand for the next time. Sometimes my glasses aren't handy when I'm trying to read one.
Looking at it, you get better. Yeah. I'm trying to think of a way that could be like, that could be representative, like in the service, but in a way that is not distracting or overwhelming. I'm trying to think, kind of like thinking of, like on the donation slide, maybe we even just do like a percentage somehow, like how we're doing compared to how we have been, like last year or something like that. So it's not necessarily showing the amount, but it's showing percentage-wise, because I think that can give people a sense of how this was doing, I don't know, like.
You made me think of sometime last fall or something, we had a Sunday Zoom that was particularly emotional. And at the end, we showed a short video on how to use Giblify. And when it was over, my son goes, "We didn't read the room." That wasn't the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like, I think that goes back to how we're connected as a congregation, right? Because if we felt like we were connected well outside of Sunday, then we would feel confident that, if whatever the method of, that we connect, would be the primary method, right? And then we could keep Sunday as, open heart, right?
It's kind of hard to talk about finances and be spiritual at the same time.
Yeah.
Especially if people are, processing very much, or something happened, And then also we have to know that the total sum of our income is not just from the government, it's also from the Jesus collective.
We actually, yes, that's true, and we also get some contributions from people who are not affiliated with either.
Like what? Are you putting your Patreon in that?
What's that?
Are you putting your Patreon in that?
No.
Oh, okay.
We get contributions. We have 2 or 3 people who are part of the church that I led, and they wanted to continue to support us.
Right.
So they contribute to New Covenant now. But they're not part of Jesus Club.
Might be a bit, but I suppose in a similar vein of how do we inspire people to get involved in what the children are and do what we're doing. But something that I think I had mentioned, I don't know, even like February or March, was the idea of like having a slide at some point, maybe it's in the announcement section, where people can see what kinds of things our members are doing to get involved in like local communities, be it like actual like service opportunities, volunteer opportunities, or things that some of our members are giving to. Just like ways to show like these are the kinds of things that people are getting involved in. I don't know, that's something that I would be interested in seeing, like what kinds of things are our community made up of all these individuals. What are y'all, what are some things that we're getting up to? I feel like that's inspiring to me to see what kinds of things we're involved in beyond government.
Like the Human Family Project?
Sure, that or like, any number of it might be on a weekly basis, or communities we're involved in, you know, we can point people to other kinds of things, be it like collective, or, you know, like going to Almeda Park on Thursdays. You know, I just think that's something I like to do, and I feel like there are people in our community who could appreciate something like that. So, I don't know.
Just becoming aware of what people are doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Jacob and I can put that together, put a slide deck together.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be happy to put the town.
Yeah, Jacob, I volunteer you.
I voted you provide things that we should.
All right.
I think that's great. Okay.
Looks like my computer's ready to. Zoom uses a lot of power, I guess you all know.
Yeah. Everything's video. Do you have a bigger power?
We're gonna use these eyes.
So I can bring my cord.
I have one.
Oh, okay.
You have that one?
Thank you.
Do you have the email list for our, like our reservation team here?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll email you then.
Good to go. Awesome, I have a capture that in the actions.
Could I put an action on there too, something that Kenny said earlier about connecting outside of church? I know this is another technology thing, but it's a little more text message based. Starting a group meet, so we can all kind of like text each other and put that out to people so they can connect that way.
So who gets the action?
I guess we need some type.
And it doesn't have to be, because
I'm not good with technology, but I can make a stat out of it, I guess.
I think you have a lot of our phone numbers.
You don't technically need somebody's phone number at their, well, no. They text, you give them a number to text and then they can group on that.
Do they get texted? So they basically subscribe to a text stream and then.
Yeah, it's like text 722-822 to this number and you're automatically added to the group.
Yeah, so I guess my hesitation for text-based ones is that either people really excited on it because they get text all the time, or they unsubscribe, right? But the problem with the one that is an app that you have to turn on is that you have to, have to install that.
Well, it's that's why it's text based, you just it becomes in your mind.
Yeah, I'm just saying people will silence it.
If that's interest.
Okay, anything else on this topic? The Wyndham Bank financial success study. Effectively is what we have community connection. Okay, next topic was just, one of the things that came out of the last that we had was just Thursday night vacancy. So the question is how's Thursday night? How's it going? How are people connecting? Anything we have to do?
So in my community, so far I have good speakers coming in. I know my question I would like kind of budget guide because I would be person before she comes. But I feel like, nice if I don't give offer them the statue and with no attached to it would strand words and initiative programming was if I had, yes, I think I could offer this emotion, money on this emotion, money.
Yeah, that's okay. What's fair stipend? Like, that could be something where we say, hey, we would like to start having speakers on Thursday. We're really looking to, if we want to do like a stipend for the speakers, you know, twice a month or whatever, that's roughly X dollars. We'd like to kind of raise money for that, but that's something that's easy to ask for, right? It's very specific. So what's a rough goal for that? Like, is that $100 per week? Is that, I don't know, I don't have a sense of the dollar.
I was gonna say, what about 50? I know that's, it's a 1 hour, I don't know, I'm saying, like, I'm good with just open a honey bun, but, you know, some people are more, you know what I mean? They have more time on their hands. And so, $50 is a fair offer, if you got a job for $50 an hour, you would be, you know, well paid. So, like, really, $50 is fair, if you're lucky on that.
I wish that could encourage anyone people who spend together and cooperate for strengthening as a right person. I need the mistake people critique the people who are female and non-binary and watching yet expect in them to show their knowledge for like peanuts.
Yeah. I know when you invited, Jacob, you invited for the show, I think we were earning $150. I forget what it was. I don't know if that needs to be every time, and, you know, we have our own people who, you know,
Yeah.
have high demand.
Yeah, I gave you Crystal in from in September and she didn't ask for an extension even though I offered.
No, that's understandable too, because I know we have some workers in there, a lot of, time that goes into it. And,
So what would be the target goal, so that when we're looking at the finances, we know at least what to ask is?
I mean, can we say 100 a month and say that generally it can roll over, so like 100 can be a two, like, so say we don't have any speakers that month, that 100 can roll over to the following month and be 200 or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we can offer a higher person if we wanted to have that, like one person come in for that, for one time that month or something like that. So, does that sound?
There's some so maybe I could get if I get some come off I could post on Facebook, hey, do you really have this showing to feel if you give even cost this amount of money, you contribute, you did,
Another way that I've seen organizations do it is something called the gift economy, which is, you know, essentially saying that, hey, this person came here and like what, like it's been a gift, you know, so how do we, you're not charging them, you're not making it exclusive, like you can't come if you don't pay, but at the end, like, hey, And, you know, in church speak, sometimes they call it like a love offering, you know, so taking that at the end. Instead of doing something like that.
Yeah. And usually this, you might get people in trouble.
You're what?
And usually this from, you know,
Yeah.
like 60 days trouble.
Yeah. It's kind of more in the spiritual community, but the gift economy is kind of one
Yeah.
that people get quite a bit. Yeah.
I guess I'm used to that as well. Like, I mean, mostly working for kids at our restaurant, that's kind of something similar. But like, like a donation based, like, I'm used to that, and I guess I'm like decentralized way of just, like paying for things where it's like, you know, someone shows up and you tell people, hey, this person's showing up on Thursday, it's donation based, you know, you give their Venmo beforehand, you give it again afterwards. And maybe we say like as a community, you know, if we have people Venmo someone from New Covenant, we can see how much we get donations, and we say, okay, if we're only going to give this person 100, we hope to get a donation, but if we get 75, the church will chip in an extra 25. You know, like, and we have a little pot for that.
Yeah.
Then it's, I don't know, maybe that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. No, I think that it is in practice, like maybe complicated to start with, but it's a practice to start building through.
And I think that people, you know, are more likely to give when they are immediately either about to get the value by going to them, or afterwards, and they're like, yeah, that was awesome. And you ask them to say, yeah, no, that was valuable, I'm happy to, you know, give a donation.
I think doing it beforehand, it makes it feel like a price for admission kind of thing, so it feels a little more exclusive,
Yeah.
whereas afterwards, like, hey, like, you know, this was a great gift, you know, like, let's keep this person's, you know, path going and support their work moving forward, so they can see everything, so.
Yeah.
So I have two actions off of that. One is that on Thursday night, the extra ask will be added to the programming. And then from a board and budget planning, the action is to put a target for 1,200 a year for that. I say that as from the board side to do the planning, because it will be something that we discuss when the board puts together the budget. Hopefully I'm not on the board, so. But, you know, because, you know, we just want to be careful about, we want to put all the, all the wants together and say, okay, these are all the wants, this is what we, in what order do we do these? Captured.
Yeah.
That's exciting, I'm glad things are going well on Thursdays.
Yeah, Jacob is a great host. The first couple of weeks, I'll tell you what, I don't know if I'm leaving anybody else, I don't think he's leaving, you know. He hosted the first couple of ones,
I know.
and I found myself, well, I'm not considering one of them because I'm not, leaving off that.
Anything else on this topic?
I just want to say, we had some awesome speakers just in-house, you know, to work with Nan, Julia, David, and Annette, just doing awesome things, and things, just been doing, had some good in-house messages. Thank you. Very good. Welcome.
That's probably like a phrasing on top of the, just sharing of how we connecting with the people who depend on the world we're doing. Okay, anything else on this topic? Sunday service. How's it going? How is it connecting? Any help needed? So I haven't done any slides for Sunday in a long time. I kind of, so personally for me, I'm trying to focus on these meetings that we have, and then and I'm trying to just be present with, right, for where I am here. I'm trying to dial in forward, dial in. It's hard, right? It's like, you want to turn it on, but they're busy getting the ferry both of them around the house and never do it before. But it's just hard for me to commit, to do the Sunday stuff. I try to make sure I'm carving the heart space and the head space to organize our monthly leadership meeting stuff.
Alex, would that change if we were meeting in person? Would that make it easier, harder? What?
I don't know. What I'm trying not to do is sign up for all this stuff and then make Casey hold the bag for everything at home. Right? Like that's really, that's kind of my old pattern. I'm trying not to have that pattern. And so, we have a lot of discussions about just where we spend time, right? Making sure that we're just not spinning all over like we know we're gonna do it. I think the question is, if we met in person, like what would it actually look like when we have the kids going out? Like, would they come here and yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. And again, this isn't unique, right? One of those families that knows it. It's just probably the whole.
Jacob has the answer.
Now I have a different topic, but I'm really appreciating something but I need to raise one issue. To me, in the night way, some people to step aside for a week or two and get a good talking the discussion. I'm feeling some people that, how should I say it, use the privilege to take on the right giving the discussion, and I noticed as people get cut off.
I think that good guidance and investing in the product. I like to sit and take space and make space.
Yeah, I was thinking of posting that in the chat, but I didn't want people to be like, why were you saying that?
I think that needs to be taught or, exemplified. Because I think the situations in which I observed this taking place, I don't think that people would understand what that means.
Okay.
And so I think it's just like, if there's somebody that's doing it, maybe somebody send them a private message like, hey, this week, saying like,
I tried to produce the way to private message in the
Oh, yeah, you can.
I couldn't people help.
Okay, I'll help you with it.
I know how to do it, but some people have said, well, you can't only play with message your host.
Yeah, you can PM other people. You probably have yours in set for only interacting with the host, but our church is set up, you know, you do your own
Yeah.
settings.
Oh,
And we're set up that you can do that.
Would it be better facilitated, maybe, like the discussion part, or like, I don't know, people will raise hands, situation, I don't know, that's maybe either.
I think it would help if we used the raise hand feature.
That doesn't work for me, I can't see any of the smiles and hand raises on this.
This is true. Well, we make an exception, and Matt can jump in whenever he wants.
I didn't figure I used word chat when people want to talk, they say chat and they're facilitating code when people wait for the chat and it's someone says it's chat and the word was against was
Yeah. I think Matt's actually a good example of all this because he participates. But he doesn't dominate, he doesn't have to be the person who speaks every time. But he does participate, and I think that's the ideal. We want folks to participate, but we want to give space to other people.
Like, I'm not sure how to do this, but it does keep coming back to me, like, how do we teach make space, take space, or take space, make space, whatever. Yeah. So I was like, do we need to teach about privilege? You know, like, it's like, that just kind of gets sticky, you know? And yeah, I don't know.
The time before, not the last time I spoke, which was 2 weeks ago or something, but the time before that, I just asked everybody to popcorn around.
Yeah.
Just call out somebody to weigh in. It seemed to go well, actually.
You know, as a person with a big gentleman mouth and a reminder, I have to say, you know, you guys are so patient with me. But I've also learned how to bring it in sometimes a little more. I was way worse before, but I found it, you know what, making space for someone, because there's people that have such valuable things to say. This one right here, you know, she got me smart, because she'll be sitting next to me, she goes, I didn't know. And I go to push the mute button, and I'm like, no, hold on. I'm like, oh, go ahead. I love to hear what you have to say. I love it. Everybody in our congregation has valuable input. And sometimes I know, like myself, I'm waiting for someone to say something, and then I hop in. So like, okay, well, if you're going to say it, I'm going to say it real fast.
Maybe that's something we could put in the slide announcement, that we want to hear from as many people as possible, so, press limit to comments, so more people can jump in.
Just a reminder that there are lots of folk who just are not comfortable with Zoom. And those breakout groups are painful. Are painful. They don't happen along natural relationships.
It's all random.
It's all random, and you know, it's a screen, it's not a person. And so, you know, that reminder that there are folks behind this very
You know, they have an option, I know, because I do this in another group, where you have the option to join the group.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, join group or whatever, and so you have the option to join. I don't know why. Right? But then they have the option. If that, because I know sometimes when I've been kicked out, I come back here singing, and I like hearing you singing.
It's just the nature of the beast, though. There's an artificial character to it. You can't get around. And for some of us, that's the right path, I would say. We need to realize
Do you think it would be helpful? I mean, this would take more effort for the people could see, maybe have continuity, like see the same people following you.
But, we never participate in the after-church discussions, and we have not been encouraged to do that.
Well, first, you know, just to live
But the after-church thing it's a choice. And I know if we were meeting in person, that we would be hanging around talking. So it's the medium that's different that has made that difference for us. For me. Except I have to leave the meeting
If I may, I would like to, about the discussion group. As of this month, we opened our home and in addition to the third Sunday, to invite anybody from that small group to come. And then I think one of Sayuri's friend is coming every Sunday. And so she's also Japanese. And so I think it looks like, other than today, she couldn't come today for some reason. And so when that happens, of course, I'll join Sayuri and we can see, we can zoom in together. But when we have another person or persons, I will generally go onto my screen, and then Sayuri and her, and others will go stay on the other screen. And when that happens, I think the most practical for us is to have a discussion amongst ourselves physically, and because there are people who I think for English they can understand and hear to a certain extent, but I think it goes so fast that it'll be best that if we spend our time here just to go over what has been done or to greet one another, how's things going, just briefly catch up, and then come back the first time, and then after the message, go back into that group, our group here, and then usually I end up explaining what the message was about, and the main points. And so, yeah, I think that's the best use of our time when we get there. To those two parts. The first is the greeting, and then the other one is the small group discussion after the message. I think that has been the best, and it involves other, the people who are here in our home. So just wanted to put that out there.
So basically what you're saying, Kenichi, is when you have your pod, it's better for you not to be in a breakout room.
Correct. Because we were thinking, what is the best, before we were trying to involve everybody on the screen, and it seems it didn't work as well because, we have more Japanese speakers than the only English speaker really is Barbie, and really Barbie, even though her husband and Sayuri's friend, they can do English, but I think it goes so fast, and so and plus Japanese tends to, you just have to get warmed up, and I think it's much more practical because we're here in person in our living room, that we turn to each other and begin to talk. And then go back into the service on the screen, and then after the message is done and the prompt is given, turn back to our the group that's here in our living room. I think because I end up that time I usually explain the message and what are the main points that were said, and then kind of, you know, allow us to marinate in that space. Again, we tried to join initially with the screen, but it just didn't seem to be fruitful with the group that meets in our home anyway. So and it started with just third Sunday every month, but as of this month, we opened our home and say, hey, you guys want to come? You know, third Sunday, we will always, you know, we will have a potluck, but any other Sunday, you're still welcome to come for the morning part. And then one of Sayuri's friend, Naomi, she started coming. And so, yeah, so it looks like every Sunday when she's here or anyone's here, we will spend the greeting here, and then the discussion here physically.
Generally this conversation happens with Spanish a lot in our community, but language barrier is an accessibility barrier, and so kind of thinking about that in the ways of maybe, this is a concern, maybe like needs this, so a Japanese interpreter, because right now it's put on Kenichi essentially to translate and summarize in a 3-minute time period. Yeah, they have the time after the church is actually over where they can hang out and join together, but like, it's a language injustice is actually put on children in non-English speaking families, where the children has to translate to the parents for them to know like what is going on. And so right now that, Kenichi's not, I won't say voicing this directly, but there's a pressure put on Kenichi to do that. And so, not saying it's not, we haven't asked him to do it, he hasn't asked us to say anything, but like, it's something that is, you know, he's taking on in a very generous way. But like, how do we lessen that? And I think a Japanese interpreter, as you know, people are showing interest in, I think that's something for us to consider. Strongly consider.
So there are good plugins for Zoom for, you know, first transcription, but I wonder if there's translation ones if people can speak the language.
I don't know.
Because Otter.ai is one that's used for transcription. What, you know, it's plugged in and as people talking. You know, you either do a subtitle or I can do a note sheet. I can take an action to go look at transcription. That's interesting.
That would be cool if we could do it in Japanese and Spanish, at least.
Well, something I was thinking of is going to maybe the Japanese department at UCSD and seeing if somebody would like to have an internship or something like that. And just do, you know, it's an hour a week and practice your Japanese, like, I don't know. Smaller stipend, possibly, you know. But yeah, Spanish is both, like, that's, you guys have that conversation.
Yeah, I do wonder if instead of just assigning people to rooms, if it should just be, hey, join one of 5 rooms and have people opt in. Because if you think about like how the dynamic's going to be when we're mixed, right? Then
we generally don't, in the in-person ones, we generally didn't have breakout rooms. What it was just kind of go say hi to somebody. So at the end of church, we had like a time to kind of hang out as people were kind of packing up, you know, leaving kind of thing. So that's kind of like what we're trying to set up, I think, in this Zoom space where we don't have that possibility of having that kind of crossing paths or like go say hi to somebody, you know. So yeah, just having that chat atmosphere. You know, so.
Yeah. So imagine if we have hybrid in person and on Zoom services, right? That if we still have the first breakout and then the second breakout. The first breakout, then there's a hey, everyone Zoom, just pick a room to join, and then people will just click 1, 2, or 3 or
question. Does that leave us, in principle, I think that's great, but I'm just wondering, does that mean it's possible that you'll have 8 people join one room and leave 2 people? Okay.
Is one of, I'm not sure, is one of the things we're trying to figure out how to make sure that house pods don't end up in groups of individuals? Something that we just there, but not.
Yeah, that's really.
Because that would be really easy to manage. Like, just someone that's looking to break that group, and be like, okay, here are the house pods, stop into one group, so it's not gonna be, I can do that.
Have a great meeting.
Yes. Good seeing everybody again. Thank you. All right.
And I think like when people can opt into want to join, sometimes you end up in a room that actually maybe there's only one person that you can kind of leave in the room. You can hear what's going on and you talk about it right?
Does Zoom give you that choice to pick a room? I thought it's the host that has to decide.
Does the host have to decide?
You can actually assign people to a room.
Yeah.
It's just that, when you do it random, you just push one button, but if you're assigning, you gotta select every.
Right, and I'm saying like, running myself and that around and how to do it, not too, I think it's not too difficult if you, let's say you throw out the computers. It's not too difficult to do.
Okay, I think it's something to think about. I don't think we all.
It might be a long issue for a while, so we're doing in-person time. You might not be all that many people, but it could be like, 8 people in the room.
Okay, anything else on Sunday service, Phil?
Do you have a sense, David, is how the numbers consistent from Sunday to Sunday, or went up, down?
I would say, my guess is, I think that it kind of leveled off. We had more people coming regularly maybe 8 months ago. So, it went like this. Like, maybe something like that. We also, I noticed we had, because we lost people, we had more people coming late.
And it feels to me like there's a significant number of people who leave early too. Our second group is always smaller, almost always smaller than the first group.
Yeah, they come in for the sermon and they,
Is this a good time to talk about whether or not we want to move in person? What else is on the agenda? Picnic.
Is there much to be said about the picnic other than that you know what's happening?
And really left isn't 200 people. Or 900.
yeah, do this one. I don't think Diane tells me that Ashley is,
She has too much going on right now.
and she's a little frazzled right now because Friday, her son Luca was at school sitting next to somebody who was unmasked who had COVID.
Oh, no.
And so she's kind of frazzled about that.
Yeah, it's a little general. So I guess the question is, what's the question?
Talking picnic or in person?
Picnic. So, like, do we have the people that we need to discuss that today? Or is it something that we're looking at offline and deciding if we're doing it or not?
Well, the date was set for October 2nd.
And has that gotten, I mean, there was a reservation made through the.
Yeah, the reservation's been made. So,
That was the soonest that
so we just
Ashley could get, yeah.
need to figure out what kind of picnic you want. Is it potluck, or do you want barbecue, you want to bring your own lunch? Wine, drinks, or something?
Well, certainly the easiest would be for everybody to bring their own food and their utensils and their stuff, you know, everybody have their contained picnic basket with all their, what they want. And then there's no cost to, I mean, just your own personal cost, so they can be having a cost. But, you know, there's value in sharing, you know, food and.
Yeah, there's a great value in a common table.
Yeah.
So maybe we could do a hybrid, maybe there could be something, but for the most part, we're trying to be really cautious these days and.
We did a weekly thing at Cambridge Drive, through the summer, where people would bring their own main dish and then side dishes and desserts to share.
Well, that was a project, but, I think you were at, but, during the summer, we had a big barbecue pit, so people would bring the grill, and do their own grill at their meeting, or not, just vegetables, those vegetables, and then a salad or something. And bring your own beverage.
Well, that option is there because there is a big pit at the location.
You have to bring tackle. Start party.
Yeah, I don't know, it feels like the people who are leading this are not here, and they have better visibility than me on this.
Something we can get offline, just sign up for, you want to bring something in.
Okay. Then you want to talk about in person or not, or timing, like, is that something that we'll talk about today?
Yeah. 2 minutes.
So even if we had all the people we have here today, it probably would be nice to, even if it wasn't like the whole crowd, it'd be nice to at least try it, you know? I wouldn't put it on the calendar as a regular thing until we try it.
In terms of like sign up for limited availability in that situation, or would you want to do like sign up, like there's limited availability, sign up to reserve a spot? That's not a must.
Well, I don't think we have enough people to really need to have people sign up for anything if they're gonna come.
Yeah.
But just like, you know, if we have, 15 people in this room, I think it might be just worth, for the sake of being together, worshiping together.
I think there's how to do it.
Did we make any commitment to this particular?
Can I, in that regard, this location does not work, at all for myself. So that's like a consideration. I have to rely on ride every time.
You have to what?
I have to rely on ride every time, so it's not an accessible place.
But if we did a one-time pilot, maybe that could get solved during that.
Yeah, it just, then I have to rely on that, it's not fair to rely on that type of thing for somebody. If that person's sick, then I don't know, there's alternative locations too that could be tried out.
I was gonna suggest this place, I don't know if you've ever looked into it, but just down the street from me is the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and they meet on Saturdays. So Sundays might be available.
Oh, so they're not running on Sundays now? I know in the past Yeah, you know, if you want to look into it, that would be great. The only reason I looked into this because I know Denise, and I knew that she would not charge us, you know, an exorbitant rate.
There's also Tim Church.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm not saying that because like the close there, but like it just, yeah, similar mission and values as well.
Yeah, we, in fact, some of us went over and checked that out before COVID.
Yeah.
And talked about it.
That's when they still have the pews, and it's quite different now. So they don't have pews like these anymore.
I remember that. We weren't even gonna meet upstairs, so we were gonna meet down.
Oh, that's right.
Do they have a big screen?
Yeah, it's a big TVs.
Yeah, that would be good.
And a piano.
So it looks like we still need to converge on proper location, it sounds like. I hear you, Matt. I think if we were just doing a test run though, we don't have to test run a permanent location. Again, I say that very, really, because I just don't want to throw out the opportunity to meet together, you know, shorter time horizon, without having to come to, you know,
Yeah,
because
I have both of them.
because it's been awesome to be present together today and also last time.
If you were to use here, would you be able to do it tonight?
I think isn't that good? I think for
I think anytime I'm coming to work,
Yeah.
during the thing.
No, it's like they had it in person.
We used to.
Oh, you used to, that's right.
Did they use this something?
No.
You remember that, were you? When Denise was here? What can you say about that?
For the time being, they will not be here at some point in the future, they may do it again, and then they do it sometimes in the Wednesday, and then the fellowship time, but for sure they will be out there till Thursday.
Do you have action for the or a little bit just follow up and try to do what
I think, you know, I only went as far as to actually Denise approached me. So I only went as far as to accept that invitation to get to the other meeting. Because otherwise, it's almost seeing no use, and I think that's something to, you know,
What do you propose?
Feel free to say this.
yeah. I've had conversations with him too.
Do you want to use
Probably wouldn't be too much different. I mean, I think we work with this in the same way that we used to.
My gut tells me that probably the technology side, pieces would be better than things.
Because it's being used.
Well, and yeah.
You can, there's no place,
Seems like we just use
That's not the location, that's Paul edition. The Paul edition is where it's located, or by the Pauls.
That's your reward for promotion.
I feel I would keep the breath, just, anything of mutual accessible in
I didn't get that.
Wheelchair accessible. So this
you
one-
guys would feel on the
Yeah, I don't think those are the only restrooms up there. There's something down here, right? Yeah, right outside that door.
But this is from the parking lot, and we had to go downstairs. I'm sure there's
There's another side.
yeah. The other congregation is, First Congregational Church, where, most of the Wolf was and Beatitudes used to be. I don't think that space is being used either. So that's right on State, I think it's Constance and State.
The attitudes is not being?
No, they're meeting at the Ben's house now.
Okay.
Okay, I would think about how we just, not really this topic, but how we look at action.
Well, maybe what we could do is for next month's meeting, have it over there.
That's great.
You do have a time frame, David, when you were thinking for, trial one of in-person worship?
I didn't really have an idea. I'm just trying to figure out, things open up and close and open up and close and.
It's gonna be a while.
I think so.
Or is it solidity?
It's gonna be a while, but I feel as though if everyone's vaccinated and wear masks, I feel safe around more. Like right now, I feel safe. But, you just need to have a.
I think especially even with kids, if we had outdoor space for kids and they were masked, that would be safe for them.
Well, I would have Casey come in and I was the first.
I think there's kind of like a quad up here. Enclosed.
I just thought of it before it gets to you.
Then we'd all be out there with you.
Okay,
And by the way, for communion, we're going to be creative too. We'll probably be doing our own good time.
we haven't determined yet. We'll do another community mission meeting at another space to see if we have something that has better accessibility. And then, and that also doesn't mean that we can't do a trial. If somebody thinks this space is hey, this is awesome, let's just also do a trial. I don't think we'll do that. Okay.
I'm just thinking too, possibly we could be enticing if we had, like, and you can't, not, at this point, it could be our Thanksgiving service or Christmas service, and we could, meet around that and see how it goes, see how it goes. Maybe just the Sunday before, after Thanksgiving, or the Sunday before Christmas. Depending on how safe everybody's gonna be, I mean, I feel pretty safe right here, Alex, in this area.
Also, we have a bunch of COVID tests, just for the, if we wanted to do if any of who's not vaccinated, if they want to attend, we do a 1-10-15-minute test. Right, or anyone who also, they themselves perceive themselves as higher risk because of their employment or something, but they, hey, I'm vaccinated, but I'm just seeing people all the time that I want to take a test. We can do that. I think we have a budget for 150 tests or something.
Okay.
Right, something like that. So, yeah. That's it. So that was pretty, we don't really have any people.
I was just wondering, what would you say, what would be a reaction or action if someone tested positive?
I think we all need to pass it.
Are you asking for me?
They probably would want to leave. I would think, yeah. I mean, if I should you know, I put myself in that position, and I'm thinking that if I test as positive, I want to go home.
Yeah, possibilities in the.
And it's not like, it would have to be a compassionate thing, right?
How do you know what the false positive rates on the 15-minute test are?
So false positive is actually a very low, whereas false negatives are more likely. Right? It's not they're not, yeah, they're more likely to have a false negative than a false positive. Let me see what's the good, right? Yeah, they're not perfect, right? They're not perfect.
But isn't it true with the Delta variant, which is the prevalent variant right now, that because of more particles, they're more having
Those are easier to detect.
that they're much more accurate now than they were earlier on in the pandemic.
And also, the degree of how contagious are you is tied to the ability to detect. So the more contagious you are, the more likely you will detect it. And so if you have it, if you got COVID and you're not yet contagious, you may show negative.
Right.
So that's the good thing. It's correlated.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's not going to
Yeah. Yeah.
I have no problem at all with if someone tested positive coming. We're a covenant community and we make a covenant with everyone here to be as safe as we can be. And that's.
Did you say you do have a problem or you don't have a problem?
I don't.
Have a problem with sending someone and saying you can't come if you test positive.
Okay.
There's a little table outside.
I'll be the bouncer. Skinny me. Little flat belly.
All right. The final item is just what are topics that in general we want to be talking about. Are there any other topics that at the next meeting we want to talk about that people want on the agenda?
Well, I have a question about this salary that just passed out. And so I was wondering if maybe you could elaborate
Well, it's incomplete because of the problem because it's not visible. And we can see a snapshot of the one sheet shows what people expenses have been, water balance is out of right now. It's $5,000 and $25.33.
So on this sheet here, it says that we're 5,000 short.
No, it's not saying $5,000. In terms of the income and expenditures, there's a difference of about $5,000. But we still have an income, and this is not our balance. We have, with those expenditures, we started out way ahead of the curve. So with those expenditures, we're still in black.
And we have enough, we still have a week and a half left in August.
Not that sure. But this is just kind of showing you kind of what the income kind of how it trickles in.
Is that like monthly from our church?
No, it's growth. It's growth. This is, everything goes into the same account. And I haven't updated the other things.
And then, payroll, is that just
Yeah, that's what it is. On the
The pastor's payroll comes out in 2 ways. One is the payroll and the other is housing. Because it's taxed differently. So that's why there's 2 line items there. Item 2 and item line items. So the major expenses are, I think highest expense is payroll, the collective payroll, the housing payroll. The smaller items would be like, and then there's also administrative stuff. Sometimes it's like, through the year, but it's administrative items that are part of it. About 10%.
I have a lot of credit for the all the everything that's like that too.
Do you want to make sure that you send Matt a copy online so he reads the video?
Okay. Well, the credit with the bank, and one, so if you have a overdraft or the pay, whatever it is, the credit card, and you pay it back. And at one point, you know how to pay, like you pay for it.
Well, yeah, it's all coming, all of it comes out. It used to be a line item.
Yes, a little over a year ago, we weren't even making payroll at all. And the tax is like $200 sometimes. But we didn't make this tax, so we didn't have a line item, but whatever came in, essentially nothing because we just wasn't making it. So a lot of things went by the wayside. And we do have to do responsibility to pay those because we couldn't write a check for $1,000.
There's some things that I'd like to add to the assignment. One is website/social media/branding, I guess. I think that topic is a reading, possibly we talked about last time. So, what that could look like.
Quick question. when the church meets here or any other indoor facility, can I assume, or those of us who have been zooming in from another location, that the services are going to be in multi-modality?
Multi what?
Multi-modality, like
Yes.
that. Okay, great. I thought so. Okay, thank you.
We are now, Dimitri.
Yeah, I can see all of you, except for you, Pastor David. I see Diane, and I know you're sitting next to her.
And I think when we do that, and we understand the space, we'll figure out the associated hardware with that, right? Like, we'll probably try to get some better, well, my thoughts are that we'll look at what kind of cameras and stuff like that you can use to make it, work well, and also audio to properly.
And as a matter of fact, Fuller Chapel does that too. You know, we have the live in person, and then streaming online live, so that students from all over the world can log in remotely. So, and then I was thinking about our speakers anyway. So they have to be zoomed in, right? The speakers.
Many of them are not local, and most of them are not local.
Yeah, I thought, yeah.
And can I add something? I'm not sure. I mean, I think it's maybe bigger than just New Covenant, but essentially we have two churches that are pretty much essentially the same thing. So maybe we have an in-person one, and then we have a second service that is Jesus Collective, and those are the people that are more the not local people. And we still bring in guest speakers on that one. So it's essentially have two different services going on. I don't know. So just kind of figuring out how do we work together and not keep duplicating efforts, I guess. So kind of maybe talking about that next time.
It's a new community. Yeah, we have maybe three or four people that were part of the Optima Church, but other people. And some of them are not only part of Jesus Collective. I mean, some of them are Catholic. I think somebody goes to a Unitarian church. So, it would be a little bit complex, but we could probably do something.
Well, we can keep that one where we're having the various guest speakers come in, keep that one kind of more universal, where it still appeals to them, and have this one be kind of on the ground where they're teaching more, or like having more local teachers kind of on the ground teach, so where we have that in-person kind of community. I don't know, just add that to the thing where we can kind of ideate around what the different options could look like.
That sounds good to have.
And we do have some people who connect with us who are not going to be available later in the day. So that have to be navigated.
Yep. You mean for New Covenant or for Jesus Collective?
No, for New Covenant, there are people who come in in the morning that would not be available at 8:11.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Closing prayer. Hopefully.
I will for you, Alex.
All in favor?
No.
Nay.
Source of love. Thanks for bringing us together today. So good to see and be with everyone in person. And just come together to hear each other and how we come together as a community. And thanks for guiding us and giving us the opportunity to organizing and really figure out ways to celebrate you and life and each other. Please work through our hearts and our minds in the coming weeks as we reflect on the things that we're going to do. I pray this all in your name. Short.
So Denise told me that the door is locked, so make sure you don't leave anything behind. Once the door is closed and the air out, it's all here for us.
Well, thank you so much for allowing me to zoom in. See you all. Love you all. Okay, thank you.
And since we're in here, you know what I mean?
Bye. Bye.
Bless the Lord.